Welcome to Track Tested Motorsports. My name is Jag.
I'm Boris.
This is Boris, aka the Professor, and he actually returned from coaching a couple of his students at Sebring. So he's going to touch upon a couple of things that were frustrating for him and his students while he was out there. And with that, I guess, Boris, tell us, about your weekend and what was frustrating for you.
Right. So thanks, Jag. Actually, it was an awesome, couple days overall. But as is often the case, there was a lot of evidence of very poor situational awareness, and I'm talking at the advanced level.
Wow.
We would expect some of that at the beginner or even intermediate level, but I was a bit disappointed, to be honest, and surprised. Of course, this is something that we often see on our public roads too, where people aren't aware of what's really going on around them. They may just be looking straight ahead and maybe even looking down. So very poor situational awareness, and instead maybe more focused on what's going on with their phone.
Yeah, that's interesting you mentioned that for especially advanced students, because as a beginner, you're a bit nervous and you're just focused on the driving line and make sure you don't go off track. So, hearing come from the advanced side, it's pretty interesting.
Right. So I was actually asked by some of the viewers of our channel to please do an episode about this. And we were going to talk about car preparation and some of the more basic concepts such as the driving line and corner entry. But we want to satisfy our audience, and so we're going to switch gears and talk about situational awareness this morning.
So what do you mean by situational awareness? Just
So
paying attention to your mirrors, just looking around?
paying attention to what's going on is probably the simplest way to put it. If you're a motorcyclist, you probably have extremely high situational awareness. Why? Because your life probably depends on it. You must know at all times what's going on around you, right?
Yeah.
What the other drivers are even thinking. And you're probably not looking at your phone. Certainly not while you're riding. I hope so anyway. So when we see an accident happen on the road, it's most likely driver error.
Yep.
Especially single car accidents. There's really no one to blame.
Yeah, but yourself, yeah.
Exactly. Roger Penske has a saying, all his drivers know this. He states that all wrecks on track are caused by driver error. And I would think that perhaps some could be caused by mechanical issue, but then I guess that would be human error as well. So what can drivers do to prevent mishaps, accidents, etc.? Well, increase their situational awareness. And let's break it down to answer your question more fully, Jag. The vision is key, right? Most of our driving is done through our input, through our eyes. So keeping our vision up and as far down the road as possible is a formula for success.
Yeah, I think, day-to-day driving, people are just paying attention to the tail lights or the brake lights in front of you, and they're not really looking ahead or looking through even the rear view mirror through the other car to see what's going on ahead.
Exactly, Jag. And what often happens, we have these chain pileups, right? Where instead of two cars, it involves multiple number of cars.
Exactly.
The fact that there was an accident in the first place is probably driver error, but the fact that there's a pileup, now we have multiple driver errors. Exactly. So by keeping our vision up, at least 3 seconds down the road, preferably farther, faster we go, obviously, the farther down the road we need to look.
Yeah, and it sounds easy to, look up, but it's actually pretty difficult because, your whole life you've been trained as you're driving around is looking at the car in front. And even at the track, I have to tell myself to look ahead. It's difficult.
One of the things that you've all heard your instructor tell you is that you will go where you look.
That's true.
You learn that in the classroom as well. And that same thing applies to riding motorcycles or skiing and lots of other sports. So you want to look where you want to go or where you should go. And by looking beyond the car in front of you, you'll have a lot better idea what's about to occur. And this actually happened at Sebring. I hope you have a chance to insert in a video portion that shows my client, Brett, doing a very good job with exactly what we're talking about here. And by doing so, he was able to avoid getting involved in an accident that occurred 3 cars in front of us. And we'll talk about that in that video clip, the conversation that he and I are having. Now you might be wondering, well, how do I know if I'm looking, 2 seconds ahead or 3 seconds ahead? Easy. Pick an object. Next time you're driving down the interstate, select something like an overpass coming up, and start counting. 1001, 1002, and determine how many seconds you are looking down the road, how long it takes you to get to that overpass, in other words. And then try to train yourself to look, as Jag was pointing out, above and beyond the cars that are in front of you. But also another piece, what's going on behind you. We get so fixed at looking ahead, as you said when you first started, you were doing. But we can be looking straight ahead, and we can also, at the same time, without even not turning our head, we can glance at the our left mirror. We can also look up to our rearview mirror, and then finally over to the right side. So as we're looking straight ahead, our eyes should occasionally be making this motion, where we're scanning, so we know what's going on behind us.
Yeah, it's very important to pay attention to your mirrors on your track. And I know Boris in our next video will get on to the second thing that annoyed him. But there are situations where the car behind you will present itself but kind of disappear out of your mirrors. And that car just didn't disappear, it's somewhere. So that's why it's important to pay attention to your mirrors.
Exactly. So we'll talk about presenting oneself. I find when I teach classroom or even mention those words to my students on the track, they often don't really know what that means. So we're going to get into presenting oneself for a proper pass. But let's just touch on passing a bit, so I don't forget. So this will illustrate what happened, and I know you saw it on the video as well. So we'll use our two magnetic cars here. The green line, of course, is the driving line, and for the purpose of this illustration, we're going to assume that this track runs clockwise, so that the turn coming up is going to be a right-hand turn, which means that the line is on the left side of the track. So what happened, and I've seen it happen before, and many of you have seen this, and hopefully you can instruct others by using this video to hopefully prevent this from happening. So what happened was the red car, we were coming up to a red car, and the red car, they wanted to be really, really nice, and instead of staying on line as they were instructed to do, they decided to pull over to the right. So they're over here on the right side of the track, and they point to the left, like this. So the car that's behind them goes to the left, and it continues on line up the road. Okay? And I happen to be in that car. And then another car comes up from behind. We'll just use this blue line to illustrate this car. Car number one, actually this was number one, that's number two. This car number three, we'll use the blue line. So this driver now has to, as he's coming up, he has to get over to the left side to get around this car, and then continue and now go to the right, because my student pointed above the roof as he should have. So you get the picture. So now what we have is a moving chicane on the backstretch of Sebring at about 140, 150, maybe 160 miles an hour.
Not safe.
We're not safe. And safety is always number one priority, but not fun either, because it's also causing the driver that's doing the passing to have to do all this extra turning.
Yep.
And one of the things we'll talk about at some point in time is the fact that on the track, we want to have as few steering inputs as possible, because that's when things can happen. Also, that's when the car slows down. The car's fastest when it's going in a straight line. So this is not an ideal situation by any means. So that was frustrating for probably all of the drivers involved.
Yeah, and you see this pretty common, even though you're told that you should stay on the driving line. People try to be nice, or they forget and they go off the driving line, and that causes a lot of frustration and a slowing down as well when people want to be fast.
Exactly, and it's expected at beginner level, because for beginners, just learning what the driving line is a challenge at first. It certainly was for me, and I'm sure it was for you. Mm-hmm. So knowing where the line is, it's simple here in this piece of track which is going straight, but as the track is making many turns and undulations, and it's dipping in some places and cresting in others, it gets overwhelming as to know exactly where the line is. But what was particularly disappointing here, as I mentioned, was the fact that this was the advanced group. And that's why we're talking about this. So this could have been prevented with better situational awareness, being aware of what the situation is, and because a driver makes an error and points to the right, moves to the right, you don't necessarily have to pass them. Or you can indicate that may not be the right thing to do. So when you're out there, please cooperate. As I always say, play nice so everybody can have a great time.
Exactly. Any other things you want to touch on for situational awareness?
If you're driving a really fast car, like a 765 LT McLaren, which I happen to enjoy seeing yesterday, I didn't get to drive it, but and then something appears behind you, like, I don't know, I'll just pick on an E30 BMW since I drive one often, or a Miata, something low horsepower. Realize that it didn't get there by accident. It didn't just magically appear behind you. So that is a good opportunity to point that car by, lift off the throttle, and follow them, and find out why is it that they were able to do such a great job to catch you in your fast car.
Okay. And with that, my name is Jag.
And I'm Boris.
And if you like the content of this channel, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.
See you again soon.